The Ottoman-Egyptian invasion of Mani was a campaign during the Greek War of Independence that consisted of 3 battles. The Maniites fought against a combined Egyptian and Ottoman army under the command of Ibrahim Pasha of Egypt. On March 17, 1821, the Maniites declared war on the Ottoman Empire, preceding the rest of Greece in joining the revolution by about a week. The various Greek forces won a quick string of victories. However, disputes broke out amongst the leaders and anarchy ensued. The Ottomans seized this chance and called for reinforcements from Egypt. The reinforcements came under the command of Ibrahim Pasha, the son of the leader of Egypt, Muhammad Ali. With the Greeks in disarray, Ibrahim ravaged the Peloponnese and after a 4-month siege he captured the city of Missolonghi in April. He then went back to the Peloponnese and turned his attention in June to Mani. Ibrahim tried to enter Mani from the northeast near Almiro on June 21, 1826, but he was forced to stop at the fortifications at Vergas. His army of 7,000 men was held off by an army of 2,000 Maniites and 500 refugees from other parts of Greece. Despite Egyptian and Ottoman artillery, the outnumbered Maniites managed to hold off the Ottomans. Ibrahim sent 1,500 men to attempt a landing near Areopolis and go north to threaten the Maniite rear. This force was initially successful, however the women and old men of the area fought back and repelled them with heavy losses. When the Egyptians at Vergas heard that Theodorus Kolokotronis was advancing on their rear, they retreated. In August, Ibrahim renewed the offensive and he sent a group of regular soldiers down the coast and they reached Kariopoli before they retreated. Ibrahim sent a force of 8,000 men down to Politsarevo and on the way they destroyed a tower that was opposing them. When they reached Politsarevo, they were faced by the Maniites in the forts. The Egyptians and the Ottomans were forced to retreat with significant losses. This was the last time Mani was invaded during the War for Independence, as Greece was liberated in 1828. Prelude: the Greek War of Independence had started on March 17, 1821, when the Maniites declared war on the Ottoman Empire at Areopoli. On March 21, the Maniite army of 2,000 men under the command of Petros Mavromichalis, which also included Theodorus Kolokotronis, marched from Areopolis and headed for Messenia. The next day, they reached Kalamata, which had an Ottoman garrison, and they captured the city on March 23. The rest of Greece joined the war when Bishop Germanus of Patras declared Greece in rebellion on March 25. At Kalamata, the Greeks established the Messenian Senate which governed affairs in the southern Peloponnese. Kolokotronis wanted to attack Tripoli, but Petros Mavromichalis convinced him to attack the smaller towns first. Petrobe also sent letters to the courts of Europe telling them of the Greeks' plan. Petrobe finished off the letters by signing it with Petrobe Mavromichalis, prince and commander-in-chief. On April 28, the Maniite army joined Kolokotronis' forces at Caritania. From there they went to Tripoli and started to besiege the city. The city eventually fell on September 23, 1821 and was sacked by the Greeks. Due to the unrelenting losses and stories of Greek atrocities in Tripolis, the Sultan became desperate and in 1824 he called on his viceroy in Egypt, Muhammad Ali, to aid him. Ali promised to aid him in return for cession of the island of Crete, Cyprus, as well as making his son Ibrahim Pasha, Pasha of the Peloponnese. After his offer was accepted, Ali sent his son in command of the expedition. Meanwhile, the Greeks were in disarray because of political rivalries which had caused a civil war. Kolokotronis was arrested, his son Panos was killed, and his nephew Nikitaras forced to flee. Ibrahim used the confusion to land at Methone in the Peloponnese. From Methone, Ibrahim started pillaging the Peloponnese and taking many people as slaves. Ibrahim captured Tripolis but was stopped from capturing Nauplion by Konstantinos Mavromichalis and Demetrios Ypsilantus. In retaliation, Ibrahim burnt down Argos before returning to Tripoli. Ibrahim decided to go with his army and join Reshid Pasha at Missolonghi in central Greece. The Egyptians reached the city on December 12, 1825 and helped the Ottomans with the siege. On April 10, 1826, the city fell to the invaders and the city was sacked. Battle of Vergas. Ibrahim sent an envoy to Mani demanding its surrender or else he would pillage it. He received the Maniotic reply of, from the few Greeks of Mani and the rest of Greeks who lived there to Ibrahim Pasha, "We received your letter in which you try to frighten us saying that if we don't surrender, you'll kill the Maniots and plunder Mani. That's why we are waiting for you and your army. We, the inhabitants of Mani, sign and wait for you." Ibrahim, furious with the response, ordered an attack on northwestern Mani from Kalamata on June 23, 1826. Under his command was a force of 7,000 men, a mixture of infantry and cavalry. The invaders were forced to stop at the fortifications of the Maniots at Vergas near El Nero. Defending the walls were 2,000 Maniot soldiers and 500 Greek refugees. The Egyptian artillery failed to breach the walls, so Ibrahim decided to launch 2 ships with cannons and have them bombard the Maniot defenses from the sea. He also combined this attack with infantry assaults. However, these failed as the invaders were driven back from the walls 8 times. The attacks lasted for a few more days before the Egyptians and Ottomans were forced to retreat when news arrived that Kolokotronis was approaching their rear with 2,000 men. The Maniots chased the Egyptians up to Kalamata before withdrawing. Ibrahim lost 2,500 men at Vergas and the Greek losses are unknown. Battle of Dairo. During the Battle of Vergas, Ibrahim decided to attack the Maniots from the rear. His plan was to send a small fleet with a few soldiers to land at the Bay of Diros, 2 kilometers south of Areopolis. The aim of this was to capture the unguarded Areopoli, which cut the communication lines of the defenders at Vergas and demoralize them as well. He would then be able to attack the Maniots from the rear and control the mountain passes to eastern Mani and Yaddah. Authors Peter Greenhalgh and Edward Eliopoulos describe this plan as excellent. On June 23, he sent a small fleet carrying 1,500 to land at the Bay of Diros and to capture Areopolis. Aid came from other villages. On June 26, the surviving Egyptians were rescued by Ibrahim's fleet from the beach and those who were not rescued had to swim to the ships or be killed by the Maniots. This battle cost Ibrahim 1,000 men and he was forced to retreat from Mani after being defeated at Vergas. Battle of Politsarevo. After his retreat from Mani due to the defeats at Vergas and Diros, Pasha renewed his offensive in August. Ibrahim's army was led by a Laconian from Badunia named Bozines who had assistance from the Egyptian fleet. On August 27, he reached Areopoli in an attempt to take a safe path through the mountains. Before he reached the town of Politsarevos, his army of 8,000 Egyptians was delayed by Theodorus Stathakos and his family of 13 men who refused to let the invaders pass their tower. Bozines tried to negotiate with Stathakos. Stathakos, feigning surrender, told Bozines to come and take his family's guns. As Bozines came to retrieve the guns, the Stathakos family killed him. In retaliation, the Egyptians used their 2 cannons and blew up the tower. The Egyptians then proceeded towards the town of Politsarevos and reached it on August 28. Awaiting them there were 2,000 Maniots behind their fortifications. The Maniots had chosen Politsarevos as their position of defense as it was on high ground and was surrounded by rocky slopes. This would have meant that the Egyptians could have been stopped before they arrived at the town. As part of their defense plan, the villagers sent all the women and children to the mountains before improving the fortifications. As the Egyptians arrived at the walls, the Maniots sallied out and caught the Egyptians by surprise. The Egyptians, suffering losses, withdrew from Mani and back into the Laconian plain. The Egyptians had lost 400 men during the battle and the Maniots only lost 9. This was the last invasion launched against Mani. Aftermath. Even though this campaign is overshadowed by other battles of the revolution, it was one of the most important. The Maniates stopped the Egyptians and Ibrahim Pasha, who had not been defeated this decisively before. The women who defeated the Egyptians at Deros have been given the name of the Amazons of Deros. This was the last invasion of Mani, as Ibrahim abandoned any ideas of conquering it. On April 26, 1827, the Turkish navy bombarded Oittolo with over 1,700 cannonballs hitting the town. In 1827, the combined fleets of France, England and Russia defeated the combined Ottoman-Egyptian fleet in the Battle of Navarino. In 1828, under the terms of the Treaty of Constantinople, Greece became an independent state which was recognized by the Ottomans in 1829. When Ioannis Kapodistrias was made president of Greece, he had Petros Mavromachalis imprisoned. The Mavromachalis reacted by assassinating Kapodistrias in Nauplian as he went to church. The Maniates continued causing trouble and defeated two Bavarian armies King Otto sent against them before they were subdued only after some of the leaders were bribed. This ended the Maniots' independence and they were forced to pay taxes.